And, you know, we talked about Bryce Carlton last week, and we're not going to go there again. It's a story you've heard before, but parents sometimes lie for their children. And, you know, you'll see it in these crime stories I keep telling you about on Dateline. And there are parents who lie about murder and cover up a crime because they can't bring themselves to admit that a family member did it. So let's go back to chapter 18 here, and let's quickly put some things together here as we close out this study. This is our last session, and I don't think we'll finish. But what we want to do is hit the high points. Certainly the story of Absalom is an important story. Absalom was bad, tried to take over, would have killed his father if need be. So we closed last week with this image in our mind of Absalom. They lost 20,000 in the battle. Absalom's followers, Israel, 20,000. And more of them died from the heat and from the wilderness and from the forest than they did from the actual battle. But Absalom's riding a mule, and so you have this image of his hair flowing because it was long and beautiful, and he was a handsome man, but he went under this terebinth tree. In your book, I said, in parentheses, an oak tree. I did some more research on that. I don't think the terebinth tree was an oak tree. It was a large tree with large limbs, but it's more related to the cashew than it is the oak. So if that confuses you, you can do your own research on it. But it was a big tree with big limbs, and he got hung in it with his hair, and he was hanging there. So that's the image that we had last week. So one of the men fighting with Joab, with David's followers, goes to Joab and says, Absalom's hanging in a tree over there. And Joab says, did you kill him? No. Now, why did this soldier, I don't think we're giving his name, why did he not kill Absalom?
David had asked them not to.
David said, don't touch Absalom, which is remarkable. It goes back to the Lawrence brothers. It goes back to Bryce Carlton. David had this mistaken idea of Absalom. He loved him in spite of the fact that Absalom was spoiled. Absalom was a brat. Absalom was evil. David still loved him. He said, don't touch the young man Absalom. So he said to Joab, that's why I didn't touch him. I'm not going to touch him. The king said, leave him alone. Absalom said, I would have given you, I think he said, I would have given you 50 shekels of silver if you had killed him. And the guy said, I wouldn't have done it for 10,000 shekels of silver. So Joab goes and kills Absalom. 10 men go with him. The first expression there is that Absalom drove his spear through his heart 3 times. But in the same paragraph it says that they all participated. All the 10 men with Joab killed Absalom. They took his body down, and what did they do with it?
Buried it.
And how did they bury his body? In a normal way? They threw it in a pit and threw rocks over it. David doesn't know what's happened. He doesn't know. And so as we read further there, 2 men run to tell David how the battle has gone. And one of them, Joab said, don't go. He's lost his son, don't go. But for some reason, he told this Cushite, you go. You can go on and report what's happened. And so the first individual said, well, why can't I go? And David said, well, if you got to go, go. And so he outran him. Anyway, they got there. The first one told David how the battle went successfully, but he didn't tell him about Absalom. The second one told him that Absalom was dead. So, look with me now in chapter 18, actually the very last verse of chapter 18. And picture in your mind David screaming, yelling, because he's just heard about Absalom's death. Oh, Absalom, my son, Absalom. It would have been better had I died in your stead. O Absalom, my son, my son. So we see the image there. David is weeping greatly for a son who was out to destroy him. That's interesting. Any comments about that scene?
He has great mercy. He's merciful and long-suffering, like God wants us all to be.
Yes, he was. He was very merciful and long-suffering. But did he tip the scales a little too far in advocating, be an advocate for an evil son?
Probably.
Yes. Had he spoiled Absalom? Most assuredly he had. But he is still weeping greatly for the loss of his son.
Well, that goes back to the parent situation. I have known of parents that their children were determined to do anything and everything against them, and yet the parents, would take up for them.
Yes. Goes on every single day. There is a mistaken thing about love that some parents have, that to love a child is to always say they're right. To love a child is to always lie for them and protect them from anything, any punishment or anything that comes their way. That's not love. That's the opposite of love. And we all understand that. We could talk about that for the rest of the class. Joab didn't like this. By the way, Joab is still in bad graces with David. It's interesting that Joab is even allowed to continue, but he is. But as we'll see toward the end of the lesson, Joab's time is coming. But he has the audacity to challenge David. And I want us to look at the words he spoke to the king. So look at chapter 19, beginning with verse 5. Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, Today you have disgraced all your servants who today have saved your life, the lives of your sons and daughters, the lives of your wives and the lives of your concubines, in that you love your enemies and hate your friends. That's strong language for a man that's already fallen out of grace with David. He's already in serious trouble. Yes, Jim.
Didn't he need to hear this?
He did. David needed to hear
He
it.
needed to hear this.
So in all of Joab's, in all of his wrong in his life, he's doing something here that is very, very wise and very appropriate. He's confronting the king. Why are you doing this? The guy was trying to kill you. Let's read on, verse 6. For you have declared today that you regard neither princes nor servants. For today I perceive that if Absalom, now get this, if Absalom had lived and all of us had died today, it would have pleased you well. That's strong language to the king. Now therefore arise, go out and speak comfort to your servants, for I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, no one will stay with you this night. And that will be worse for you than all the evil that has befallen you from your youth until now. Then the king arose and sat in the gate and told all the people, saying, There is the king. And all the people saying, There is the king sitting in the gate. So all the people came before the king. Every one of Israel had fled to his tent. It was a disturbing time. Yes?
I was just going to point out, I think part of the reason of Joab's motivation up in verse 2, the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people. The effect that his mourning was having on all the people was,
It wasn't good. It was a really, really bad scene.
we should be celebrating, but we're not.
Not. We went to our tent. Joab did the right thing. But Joab was messed up. He was. And we're going to see that even further as we go on. Now we're going to go fast, so hold on to your hats. Yes, sir.
Real quick,
Yeah.
20,000 people of Israel died. I don't know how many people of Judah died.
Right.
And they're mourning a traitor.
A traitor. Yes.
David was a weak father.
He was. He was a weak father. So let's pause here for a minute. When we went into this study, one of my concerns was that you would grow weary of studying David for 12 weeks. Because sometimes it's just really ugly. And you see the ebb and flow of David's life. And one of my concerns was we would just get bored with that after a while. So I got to thinking about it last night, and what is it that we learn from this study? And we've already talked about this once, but let's say it again. What's the most important thing in this whole study? It's not a trick question. I'll tell you this, it's not David. The most important thing is what?
I'm thinking God's mercy.
God's mercy, power, love, sovereignty. And so I began to think about, okay, what were we supposed to get out of this? And so I had a moment and I started writing. So these are the things I wrote that I hope, because I know sometimes we get weary of these type of lessons. I've only taught, in the 18 years I've been teaching here, I've only taught one other series of lessons from the Old Testament. The other one was Joseph, the life and times of Joseph, which was totally different. Joseph was practically perfect. David was far from that. So, what are we supposed to be learning? Number one, the power, the greatness, the sovereignty of God, the ultimate source of all love and all power. Number two, the love of God and the severity of God. What did Paul write in Romans 11:22? Behold the what? The goodness and the severity of God. We see that here. It's not a good thing to fall out of favor with God. David was a great king. He was a man after God's own heart, but David allowed his power and lust, as Scott clearly said, the whole Bathsheba thing was about power and lust, to cause him to despise God. What a sad thing. His polygamy. God didn't want that. David wanted that. David sought and received forgiveness. That's a big point. He sought and received forgiveness. I didn't write this down, but he wrote a lot of beautiful things. He wrote a lot of beautiful Psalms, 70 some odd, 78 I believe. He wrote some beautiful prayers. There's a couple in our lesson today we don't have time to read. I hope you'll read them if you haven't already. Doug?
Concerning the Psalms, I was thinking about this. At what point in his life do you think he started writing? I mean, do you think he's been writing all along, or do you think it was after? Any ideas?
I would say early. I would say early in his life, because he was a musician early on and played the harp early. Yes, sir. Jim?
I've been thinking, what would he say now? Okay, we've got a record of what he said at various points.
Yes.
And it was it wasn't, he didn't write all the songs at the end where, he's reflecting back and saying, it was in the moment. He was writing
Yes.
these in the moment. Okay. What would he say now? What would David say now? If he could come and stand right there, what would he say about all of this?
That is a great question. I think he would say amen. If he were here, I think he would say, you're exactly right. I was a mess. I was a mess at times, but I saw through it. Psalms 51 is not just about Bathsheba. It was written after Nathan came to him about Bathsheba, but Psalms 51 is about all the things he did, all his sins, you see. And by the way, in our study, if we can get there today, he's not finished with his mistakes. There are going to be more. I think he would say amen to everything we've said here. What do you think? Okay.
He knew
Yeah.
he was a sinful man.
He knew it. He knew it.
Saul never understood that he was a sinful man, but David sure did.
Saul didn't get it. He didn't get it. Other things I wrote down. We must know God. We must come to know God on a personal level. We must learn from God. He tells us all the things we need to know and how to get along in this life. we learn from the good and the bad examples of David. The way of transgressors is hard, Proverbs 13:15. Remember we talked about that? Life can get pretty rough as a consequence of sin. It will find you out, just like it did David. All right, now let's quickly run through some of the highlights here, beginning with chapter 19. This civil war that we had earlier, it's back again. Israel and Judah are not getting along. The people of Israel feel cheated. They understood Absalom was bad, but they feel cheated, and there's this civil war. All this strife is boiling over again. We're not going to read all the details about that, but you'll see there in chapter 19, David returns to Jerusalem. David's mercy to Shimei. This is interesting. What did Shimei do whenever they were fleeing Absalom? David and his army. What did Shimei do? We talked about it last week. He cursed David, he threw rocks at him, and he kicked dust and dirt at him. Kind of like a mad baseball coach. Kicking dirt. He did all that. And so now Shimei wants to be aligned with David. And David's men said, that man ought to be killed for what he did. But David said, no, let him alone. He said, leave him alone. Basically what David was saying was, Shimei thought he was right. And for all he knew, God may have motivated him to curse me and throw rocks at me. Leave him alone.
Well, he is asking for forgiveness.
He is. He does come back. Now, do you remember the end of the story for Shimei? We'll go ahead and just do it now because we're going to run out of time. What in the end happens to Shimei?
Killed by Solomon.
He's killed by Solomon. Actually,
Under David's direction.
yeah, Benaiah killed him. Because his punishment was, David told Solomon, he needs to go down to his grave in blood. David told Solomon, and we'll read that if we can. David told him, I want you to take care of Joab. I want you to take care of Shimei. I want you to take care of one or two others. This was in his final testament to Solomon. By the way, I misspelled Solomon in the heading, and I didn't realize that until last night. I spelled it Solomon in the top of this lesson. And it's Solomon, S-O-L-O-M-O-N. It's spelled correctly everywhere else. I don't know how I do things like that. And then I don't find it for weeks later.
Do you think most of us caught that?
Did anybody catch it? Well, it was close.
Little box, you can just keep it in a little
Keep it in a little box, okay. Shimei was banished home, and he was given an opportunity to live. Solomon actually said, go home and don't come out. Basically, house arrest. Go home and just stay there. You can't come out. After 3 years, he couldn't stand it because some of his slaves were stolen. And they ended up in Gath. And so he gets his donkey and saddles it, and he goes after those. He wants his men back. He wants his slaves back. Cost him his life. Absalom had him killed. Absalom's long gone. Clear your head, Mickey. Got too much in there. Okay, so Solomon had him killed. So that was the end of Shimei. Although here Shimei aligns himself with David, but David hasn't forgotten what he did. All right. Mephibosheth. Remember, Ziba came and said, Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, he's deserted you too. Now, Mephibosheth comes here in chapter 19 and says, I didn't do that. He just lied. I didn't deserve, here, I don't care about all the stuff you gave me. He can have it all, but I want you to know the truth. And so apparently the truth was Mephibosheth was reconciled to David. Let's keep going. Turn over to chapter 20. This civil war is raging, and there is this Sheba. He's a rebel, and he leads this rebellion. So David calls on Amasa, who is his nephew, to lead the troops against this Sheba, because he's a rebel and he's stirring up all this trouble. He's from the men of Israel. This civil war is raging. And so Amasa is asked to take a leadership role. However, he was the nephew of David, but Amasa led the army for who? Absalom. He was Absalom's chief of staff. But David selects him to lead the men to go chase down Sheba. Who did this not sit well with? Joab. Joab became jealous. And so, again, Joab does a horrible thing. Amasa was late getting back. So Joab took over because he didn't want Amasa to be in any part of this. And so as they are leaving to chase Sheba, Amasa comes up. And how does Joab kill him?
Slices him in the gut.
He opens him up, Scott, and his entrails fell out in the road. The Bible can be so ugly at times, but this happens. And it happened. This is a true story. But did he walk up to him and challenge him to a fight? How did he kill him?
He acted like he was very concerned about it.
Yeah. He actually reached over from his saddle and grabbed the beard like he was going to kiss him. And he took his sword and ripped him wide open and left him there in the road. And the people started stopping because of what had happened, because he's wallowing in this pool of blood. I'm sorry, I'm just telling you like it is. And so one of the men, or two of the men, or three of the men said, we can't have this, so they just drug him off in the ditch. This is the second person Joab has killed in a cruel way where he tricked them. It was cold-blooded murder. At this point in time, David doesn't even know this has happened. He's concerned about this Sheba being stopped. Doug, you had your hand up a few minutes ago.
I've done forgot it.
That happens to you too?
Oh, yeah.
All right, keep turning with
Oh,
me.
I know what it was.
Oh, okay.
No, hang on, let me find it here. It seems like a lot of the people were quick to leave David.
Yes.
You know, somebody else kind of come up. A lot of them were, were fake allegiant to him, whatever. But then somebody else come along, they were quick to leave him.
Yes. It's very interesting who left him. Abiathar the priest, for example, was one who went with Absalom. He left David after all they had been through, and he aligned himself with Absalom. That's interesting. David's nephew, Amasa, aligned himself with Absalom. And Shimei, who kicked and threw rocks at him and cursed him, Shimei becomes an ally of David. It's very interesting, but your point's well made. The people were all over the place. This was a bad time, and God was very upset about this, by the way, and we're going to see that in chapter 24. God was very upset about all this civil war, everything, not just the scenes like Joab killing Amasa. Chapter 21, the Gibeonites. I don't have time to cover that. You can read that if you haven't already. It's an interesting story. All these stories are very, very interesting. Saul was supposed to protect the Gibeonites because they had done some good things for Israel, but Saul tried to destroy them. So the Gibeonites go to David and say, what can you do for us? Because Saul tried to kill us all. And he made a request that Saul's descendants be killed. And David killed them. 7 men were executed.
The way he killed him, though, was they would let him kill him.
Yeah.
They had.
It's another one of those ugly stories. But David went to bat for Mephibosheth. He said, don't touch Mephibosheth, Jonathan's son. But they took the 7. Now, what Bruce is talking about is the way it was done. Let's look there in chapter 21, beginning with verse 7. But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the Lord's oath that was between them, between David and Jonathan. So the king took Armani and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Ajah, whom she bore to Saul, and the 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Saul, whom she brought up for Adriel, the son of Barzillai, or whatever. And he delivered them into the hands of Gibeonites, and they hanged them. So the Gibeonites hung them.
Yeah, but he said he saved him, and then he sent him to them.
Send who to them? He didn't send Mephibosheth.
But how do you get 7 if he didn't?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I said.
I don't know. You're reading some details I missed right there. So you're saying that to get to 7, he had to include Mephibosheth?
That's what it said. He said he sent Mephibosheth and what's his name? And then the 5, that's 2, and then the 5 sons of the other one, that's 7. So if he saved him, how did he save him if he sent him?
Bruce, that's very, very lucid question. Thank you. I have no answer.
Well,
I didn't read it that close. Maybe Garrett has an answer.
2 different people named Mephibosheth.
Yeah.
Oh.
How many Davids are in the Bible?
Yeah.
How many Bruces are even in this congregation? It's 2 different people.
It could have been Mephibosheth Jr.
Because it
Wait.
actually distinguishes, this Mephibosheth was the son of the daughter Aiah, so it tells a different,
Thank you.
okay.
I didn't read that. Okay.
There's only one Bruce, by the way. There may be other Bruces, but there's only one true Bruce.
Bruce Beach made
Don't tell
that.
Bruce Beach yet. He
Yeah,
would
we can.
definitely question that one. And I would too.
All right, let's keep going because of time. Thank you for bringing that up, Bruce, and thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Garrett, for helping us understand that, because I did not catch that. The Philistine giants are destroyed next. Some of those are father and brothers and cousins of Goliath. He wasn't the only one. Now, look at chapter 22. How much time do we have left? Oh, there's a clock. Okay, good. We're okay. We got 7 or 8 minutes. Praise for God's deliverance. David wrote that. It is absolutely beautiful. People can't write like that without God's inspiration. It's impossible. Chapter 23, David's last words. Absolutely beautiful. Very, very touching. And if you want to look into David's heart, read these last words of David. We don't have time to read it. Here's,
Maybe this is him now.
yes. Yeah, that would be a good way to put it. This is David. Yeah. This is how David finished. He finished the course. We're very often judged on obstacles along the way, but how did he finish? This is how David finished. Now look at chapter 23. There's probably a heading in your Bible, David's mighty men. That's also very interesting to read. There were 3 singled out for all they did, 3 mighty men. And then there's 30 others who are mentioned as being valiant, mighty men. And it even goes into detail some of the great things they did. But look who's listed. Verse 24. In these mighty men, Asahel, the brother of Joab. Remember him? He could run faster than anyone. He was chasing Abner and Abner killed him. That's why Joab killed Abner later, and God wasn't pleased with that. David actually put a curse on Joab for doing this to Abner, because Abner had turned and left Saul and come to David and said, I want to be aligned with you. Also, look at the very last verse of chapter 23. This is very interesting. Very interesting. In all of these mighty men, these 30 plus, and then the 3, the mightiest, look who's listed at the bottom. Uriah the Hittite. Isn't that interesting? 37 in all, Uriah the Hittite. David had him killed. That's interesting. Chapter 24. And we need to hurry here. God is upset with Israel, so he actually arouses David. He arouses him. He incites David to do something. Number the people. Go and number the people. Joab even said, why do you want to do this? David said, oh, we're going to do it. We're going to take this census. Now, there's nothing wrong with the census. Moses did it twice. God asked him to do it. There's nothing wrong with counting the people. They were counted when they came out of Egypt. 603,550 men. That was just the men. So the group, that the mob, the assembly that left Egypt was over 1 million people. These numbers are huge. And so David is incited also by Satan. According to 1 Chronicles, Satan was the one who did it. And so how do we reconcile that 2 Samuel here in chapter 24 says God moved him, or God incited this, or God aroused this in David? First of all, it says God was angry with Israel, not just David. God's upset with the whole atmosphere, the Civil War, all that's gone on. He's upset. He's fed up. So why does he do this with David? And how is Satan involved here? Was Satan involved in Job?
Yeah.
Was God involved with Job? Do whatever you want to him, but don't kill him. Save his life. He lost everything else, including all his family. God allowed this to happen. That's what it means by he incited it, or he aroused David. He allowed it to happen. It was actually the devil. It was Satan that really caused David to do this. But God was punishing David, and God was punishing Israel. So he takes the census. There's 800,000 valiant men of Israel. There's 500,000 valiant men of Judah. That's 1.3 million soldiers. But why was this wrong?
Didn't God say not to before?
No, not in so many words. God has actually sanctioned censuses before in the numbering of the people. And here, God and Satan stirred up David to do it. Why was it wrong?
What he was going to do with it?
Why was it wrong to take the census? Because he's going to be punished for
Right.
doing it.
Pride.
Because of pride. Where was David putting his allegiance? Not in God, but in the number of warriors he had. Misplaced loyalty. He forgot God. He wanted to count the people. It was a mistake, and they all got punished for it. So God sends the prophet. He sends, who was it? It wasn't Nathan, it was Gad the prophet. He says, you go tell David he's got 3 choices. He's going to be punished. Soon after this, David repents again. But the 3 choices were, we're running out of time here, we're not going to get to the end. The 3 choices were, your enemies can flee you for 3 months and you'll be on the run. That was one. The other one was, there will be 3 days of plague on all Israel. And the third one was 7 years of famine. And David said, I can't stand for my enemies to chase me for 3 months. I don't mind you punishing me, but I don't want to be punished by other men. I don't want that. So they settled on the plagues. So the Bible says that there was an angel involved with this. At God's direction, there was an angel of death, killed 70,000 Israelis. Joab dies. Joab goes to the altar, holds on to the horns of the altar, and says, I'm not coming out. And so Solomon said, kill him, and he did. Okay, we already talked about Shimei. Adonijah, we didn't get to Adonijah. I know you know about it. Adonijah, the 4th son, tried to be king. Can you believe that? He tried to be king. Solomon had him killed in the end. At first he banished him home, but then he had him killed because, we didn't get to talk about David. When David was dying, they couldn't get him warm. They kept covering him with blankets. They couldn't get David warm. And so they brought in a beautiful virgin to lie with him, not sexually, but to warm him. Her name was Abishag, the Shunammite. And this Adonijah had the gall, after being banished, and should have been killed. He goes to Bathsheba and says, I want Abishag, the Shunammite, for my wife. And that was it. He was killed. He also went to the horns of the altar, and he was killed there. That's all very ugly, but that's how these people all died. David, his parting words, we didn't get to read it. Be sure you read his his commands to Solomon. It's beautiful. There you get the real David. What he told Solomon about his reign and how he was to behave before God. I'm sorry I went over. It's just a lot to cover. I have had fun with this study. Thank you for attending and being a part of it and participating. I appreciate it. We're out of time.